Yeah, we should have never done a 15-minute break, right? Who does a 15-minute break? Everybody's going to take 30. So, including me, so sorry about that. Okay, well, welcome back, both online and in person. We are honored now to have our next speaker who is standing in between us and lunch, just reminding you. But we do have Christina Avena and Alasia. Oh my gosh, I'm going to butcher that. So with a name like Byron, I should be much more sensitive to names. But with Grace Place team over at Meals on Wheels, I'm going to turn it over to them as they talk about positive engagement activities. So take it away, Christine.
Thank you, Byron. Hello, everybody. We are so glad to see you guys here. I want you to just know how much the team at Meals on Wheels San Antonio and I and everybody here on this summit committee appreciates you taking the time and the effort to get here. For a lot of you living with somebody with dementia in your households or in your family, I know that a typical day does not look like it does for people who are not living in that same situation. So our hearts go out to you for taking the extra efforts to get yourself here, to get your loved ones here, and to just be here. So I am Christina Avena, and I am the Director of Alzheimer's Services for Grace Place Alzheimer's Services at Meals on Wheels San Antonio. Quick question for you. Raise your hand if you have heard of Meals on Wheels San Antonio. All right, pretty much everybody in the room. Raise your hand if you have heard of Grace Place. We have a good amount. Okay, very good. So that's very good to know, and I'll explain kind of a little bit more about our centers and our services in just a bit. But at Meals on Wheels San Antonio, we have two primary programs. One of them, of course, is the meal delivery to homebound seniors, and the secondary primary program is Grace Place Alzheimer's Services. So we're really excited to be here and to touch on some things that we thought might be most helpful to you guys. So first, just to share with you briefly about Meals on Wheels San Antonio, our goal or our mission is to promote the dignity and independence of seniors in need of nutritious meals, companionship, and Alzheimer's care. That's our mission in a nutshell. So our team, the team that's here today we estimated about 45 years of experience working with either seniors or specifically working with Alzheimer's and dementia. Everyone from CNAs and activity directors to program managers and program coordinators. We are the ones that helped work to put this presentation together in a way that we thought would be answering some of the questions that can be some of the harder questions. Whenever somebody calls Grace Place and Meals on Wheels, one of the first questions that I get from a struggling caregiver is what to do with their loved one. I don't know what to do. So we're going to cover a little bit of that as well. So what is Grace Place? That's a little bit about what we are, and I'll go over a little more. We're also going to talk about our services, touch briefly on the caregiver mentality and feelings, and then social cues that signify engagement. We are also hopefully going to share with you some ways to engage your loved one in activities in a positive way, and then ways to modify these activities by stage. So as you know, I've already explained Grace Place is part of Meals on Wheels San Antonio. What a lot of people don't realize is that Grace Place actually was the birth of the organization that we know of as Meals on Wheels San Antonio now. Back in the mid-70s, we started in a church downtown, providing care for those impacted by Alzheimer's dementia, and then we grew into adding on the meal delivery component. It was then called Christian Senior Services, and then eventually we evolved into renaming ourselves as Meals on Wheels San Antonio to kind of help people understand the intent behind our services and what we do for most of the community. We are a 501c3, which means we are a nonprofit, and we serve San Antonio and Bexar County as well. So a little bit more about our services. It's hard to talk about the services in a quick time, but when we are open, our primary service that we offer is our Alzheimer's Adult Day Centers. They're called Grace Place. And I want to point out too that we are San Antonio's only nonprofit adult day centers focused on caring for those with Alzheimer's and dementia. I think what we do best at Grace Place is we meet our families where they are and where the needs of they and their loved ones are. So we are a secured facility. We employ activities and staff, trained staff, to work in ways to fully engage the loved ones in activities during the day. It's similar to like a school, when you're dropping off your children off at school and you know you want them to be in a safe place, but you expect and you want so much more for them. That's what Grace Place is, and that's what we strive to be. It's more of a home away from home. A lot of the behaviors that Dr. Lozano was talking about earlier, some of those challenging behaviors, where it can be just the wandering, the repetition in questions, fidgeting, a lot of those behaviors are forms of communication. And so what I like about Grace Place when we're open is we are able to create an environment where there's a schedule, there's a structure of the day, there's activities and things that they can look forward to that keeps them engaged, that attempts to sort of lessen some of those behaviors and forms of communication too. So with the pandemic and the closure, temporary closure of Grace Place Alzheimer's services, we kind of had a little bit of a silver lining. So we had an opportunity to take pause, something we've never done before. Since Grace Place was open, we've never had to close the doors before. And when we learned that we would be, I remember very distinctly thinking, okay, we're gonna have to close. I don't like this idea. Thinking it was probably gonna be 2 weeks, maybe on the long end 30 days. I was not prepared for how long we were going to be closed. But it gave us an opportunity to pause and rethink our services and how we're helping the community. Out of the birth of that moment of pause, we developed some new services. Grace at Home, Graceful Gatherings, Grace Notes Choir continued to meet during the pandemic and still continues, as well as our Graceful Adventures. And so Grace at Home was designed to create a therapeutic activity specifically with somebody with Alzheimer's dementia in mind and their caregiver. So what we did is upon closure, our CNAs at our different centers, we knew we were going to close. They just jumped into action and started to make photocopies of different activities, put together materials to send home. From like day one, they were on it. They started to put together materials and activities so that their members that they were caring for every day would have something to take home and be engaged. And we were continuing to send those packets out. What the program or the service has evolved into now is a much more specifically directed service. So we're doing lots more research on what activities would be good for somebody with dementia. And we've also created a caregiver guide to go along with that. If you're interested in the Grace at Home and learning a little bit more about that and how it works, just visit our table. We have samples there. We've also divided that into being able to provide something by stage. So we have activities specifically for those in the middle to early stages, and then those in the late stages as well. And then of course, Graceful Gatherings, which we love and we have been running for a while now. These are in-person gatherings where we have the caregiver come together on one side of the room, or in one room, and they will learn on different topics, areas of education, things that will help them. And at the same time, their loved one with dementia is in another room similar to the respite care that we're providing today, where they have hands-on activities, things to keep them engaged, all with trained staff. It works to give the caregiver a break, but also allow them to have time to not just receive education and tips and support, but to hear from each other. We had a topic for women and women's health, and I think what was nice that I remember about that was the women who came, the female caregivers who attended, started to form a bond of their own. I mean, you guys really know what you're going through more than any of us, and so they were able to talk with one another and get the help that they needed. Meanwhile, in the activity room, we had some of our seniors visiting us, coming out for the first time in the pandemic. They had not been out yet. And so we're very, very careful. We're always masked up. We ask lots of questions before they come so that we can provide the best opportunity for them when they arrive that day. And we have a couple of months worth of calendars at our check-in table as well of different activities coming up for the next Graceful Gatherings. And then, as you know, Grace Notes Choir is also part of Meals on Wheels in a partnership. Amy Standridge, who I believe is here today, there's Amy. She is leading this initiative and keeping music and the passion that people have for music as part of the lives of those living with Alzheimer's and dementia. And we just can't thank you, Amy, enough for keeping that going, because that's been able to continue to go during the pandemic as well. And then Graceful Adventures. So far we have had one in the community adventure. We went to the Scobie Planetarium, and it's similar to a Graceful Gathering. We brought our caregivers and those living with dementia together and all of our trained staff, and we had an outing or an adventure at the local planetarium. And we are looking forward to doing more of those. We have another one that we're scheduled for in October at the Woody Museum. That was designed as a way to help encourage and remind you as families and as caregivers that I know it can be easy to think I need to stay at home and be there for my loved one because something might happen. Well, if you have a group of people out there already like us planning to be somewhere, you can come and have an environment where there's others like you on the journey with you, feeling safe, knowing that something might happen, a behavior might be exhibited, and you might kind of feel embarrassed sometimes. You don't have to feel that way when you come out to these adventures. These are ways for you to be in the community and part of the community, but also to have the help of us as staff, but also the help and the camaraderie of other caregivers as well. What caregivers might be feeling. So this slide, I think, says it all. There are many different emotions that you might be feeling. I don't need to rehash what they are because I know that you know them well. The one thing that I want to emphasize is that these and any of the other feelings that you're having, it's okay. It's okay. Stress, it might be you feel completely overwhelmed and stressed on one day, and then you just feel like, oh my gosh, this worked so well today, and you're just elated because everything went super smooth, and then it switches again. And all of those feelings, it's okay. It's a part of this journey of caregiving. That your emotions might change from hour to hour, but the one thing that I think I have seen the most is when I talk to caregivers, caregivers tend to put everybody else's needs before their own. Often living in isolation, skipping opportunities to go out and do things on your own. It might be just as simple as going to a restaurant or going to shop for groceries alone. Those are things that we start to let go as caregivers and no longer really do because it feels too hard. I'm going to ask a quick question. So how many of you out there are caregivers? If you don't mind raising your hand. Okay. How many of you have missed a doctor's appointment to provide care for your loved one? Doctor's, dentist, health appointment. Typically, in a room full of caregivers, when you ask that question and you think back about it, there's some appointment or another that you've missed because you're providing care. And again, that's something where we always encourage, of course, if we can help in any way, but your support system could be your family, and it might not be. It might be people in your neighborhood, it might be people in your church. All of those things, like doctor's appointments and health appointments, are crucial for you to hang on to and to continue to not miss. Because you're only going to be as good of a caregiver as you are healthy. And so those need to be a priority, and I just encourage you to try not to miss those doctor's appointments. I know I've done it before as well. The caregiver role is a role that is full of many, many emotions, yet the central expression is love. Love is present in caregiving in many ways. I think there are many situations in family caregiving. All of your stories are different. I know when Grace Bridge was open, we would talk to families and it would be the full range of, this is my spouse for 52 years. I can't imagine having him anywhere else, and I want to be involved in every aspect of his care. Some are adult children who are providing care for their loved one who is a parent who's actually been estranged for years or even decades. But now their parent has Alzheimer's and dementia, and somebody needs to step in and provide that care. And I know those relationships are complex and they can be challenging. Again, I just encourage to build that support network, and for sure when Grace Place is reopened, we would love to have you attend, but lean on the people around you for those tough days when it's hard to provide that care. I won't go into full detail on these next two because I know we're kind of getting tight on time, but our CNA, Imelda, wanted to put together a quick snapshot of a day at home. We also have something similar to this on our table in the back in the resource room, because I know when you move into a situation, if you're providing full-time care or maybe somebody in your family is at home, it can be quite different from what your day-to-day life was before you were providing that care. I'm in my early 50s and I have 3 children. They're all adults. My schedule has drastically changed since they started to leave the nest. You know, it's pretty free and I get to do whatever I want. If I was in a situation now where I was caring for a parent, so many things would change. And so what we did is we put together a day here, morning routine, a lunch routine, evening and bedtime. If you'll take a look and notice this, there are no times affiliated with this. And that's because on a day-to-day basis, it could change for you. Your loved one might get up at 7:30 sharp. They might sleep in until 11 and their breakfast isn't even until the middle of the day. That's okay, but this gives you a suggested guide of a routine that you can use as a goal. The important thing to remember though is don't get stuck on specific times. Avoid rushing your loved one through the different steps of the day. And just, you know, be flexible. Be flexible. Things are going to come up in your needs. Things are going to come up in their needs. Just be flexible and try to avoid rushing them through. The other thing I like to emphasize about having a routine, even if it's just a routine of intent, and you're thinking, okay, I'm just going to put this on the fridge and I'm going to come back and look at it later. For your loved one, if they were somebody who used to go to work every morning, or if they were a teacher who used to wake up and go to school and teach students every day, there is something about those basic steps in the morning, that morning routine, waking up, brushing your teeth, having breakfast, and changing clothes, just the getting dressed part of it. There's something about that that sets in a mindset for you of, okay, now I'm ready for the day. I know that those steps can be very, very long for some of you as caregivers too, but that can help your loved one transition from nighttime into moving into the next day and saying, all right, now it's daytime and I'm going to be moving on to doing some other things other than just literally laying in bed or staying in bed. That just continues to go over, again, the evening routine of it as well. I'm really excited to move ahead to our next portion of the presentation. So Alasia is going to talk to you about ways to engage your loved one, and we're going to go over some stages that they might be in, etc. Again, it's just important to remember that just though we might say this activity is good for a certain stage, be flexible when you're thinking about where your loved one might be in terms of stage, and all of these activities could flow into the next ones very easily as well. So, super excited to introduce to you Alasia Llanos.
Alrighty, hi, my name is Alasia Llanos. I'm with Grace Place Alzheimer's Services. I'm an Alzheimer's Services Coordinator. As Christina stated, we are a program with Meals on Wheels. So I've been with Meals on Wheels as a whole for about a year. I'm pretty new to the Grace Place team, but I have been working closely with the activities we offer our families. So today I'll be going over the ways to engage your loved one, how to modify those activities, and socially signifying engagement. As you can tell, I'm not much of a public speaker, so please forgive me if I faint. Or just grab a blanket and a pillow and let me sing. Starting with this slide, obviously, there are many ways to engage your loved one, as you will see. For example, if your loved one is in the earlier stage, you may want to try light household chores, or light exercise, or board games. Just be sure to assess those board games by level of difficulty and make sure it's appropriate for your loved one. If they are in the middle stage, I suggest trying low-count puzzles or modified household chores. For late-stage loved ones or clients, I suggest sorting items of clothing or coins, or simply playing comforting music. Our late-stage clients also love a good hand massage. Please keep in mind that all of these on the board, and you're welcome to take pictures of them as well if you would like them for later use. All of these are simply suggestions, and it's important to assess your loved one's interest level as well. So if your loved one used to be a baker or a prominent chef, try making a fruit salad or something simple that still engages them in their past life. These suggestive activities can also be modified by stage. For example, if your loved one is assisting with household chores in the early stage, by cleaning the restroom. Maybe in the later stage, they'll help sort the laundry. We'll move on to modifying activities by stage. Here we have more examples of how to modify activities. These are actual products we use for our Grace at Home clients. The sticker books are incredibly impactful to our families. They enjoy all the different colors and actually putting it together either by themselves or with the help of a caregiver. The top sticker book that you'll see in the blue, those are perfect for early middle stage. These stickers inside are oddly shaped. It makes them a little bit more difficult to place. Perfect for earlier middle stage. The puzzle book at the bottom, the green one, they are squares and easier to place and great for late stage clients. We also offer puzzles. These puzzles are actually part of our welcome kits that some of you may have received in the exhibitors hall. The top puzzle is a large print 36-piece puzzle. The puzzle pieces are actually quite large, as you can see on the top right. And once you put the final puzzle together, it ends up being about the size of a 500-piece puzzle. So a little bit harder to maneuver, larger puzzle count, makes for a great earlier mid-stage activity. The puzzle below that is a 13-piece puzzle that can be assembled in the box. So the pieces are still quite small, but large enough to see the print on them. Perfect for late stage. Our late stage families love these activities. Activities are an essential way to keep your loved one or client engaged, but you're probably wondering why. How do these activities help? Most or all activities provide a sense of belonging and purpose, encouragement for social interactions and emotional connections, a bonding experience between caregiver and client, and cognitive and physical exercise. Activities may also decrease challenging behavior as they increase their happiness and focus on the activity at hand. Again, this is another slide you are able to take pictures of if you need. Keep it up for a little bit. Sometimes when engaging your loved one, we expect sort of perfection. We want them to engage immediately, or we want them to enjoy the activity immediately. And so as a loved one, as a caregiver, it's important to remember to try to plan the activity for a good time. Ideally when there are no appointments or prearranged appointments or affairs going on. We encourage you to have all of the materials you need for said activity on hand. This makes for not having to leave or prevents your loved one from wandering off or losing interest. As long as you're trying to engage, you should feel completely accomplished. That's actually a huge part, at least trying. We ask that you let go of the final outcome. It's okay if you color outside the lines or put the sticker upside down. The most beautiful paintings are made by accidents. And so allow your loved one to explore the activity as they do it. They may feel like a sticker belongs in a better place, and that's perfectly okay. Last but not least, it is important to simply enjoy the activity, as we said, and the company that you have with you. We ask that you keep in mind, engaging your loved one may not always be participation. It could be smiling, it could be laughing, it could be talking, it could be simply watching what you're doing. Activities mean they're present with you. Now that we've listed a couple of activities for you all to try out, you might be wondering, how do I know when they're ready to engage? The most common that we see is fidgeting, whether that be playing with their clothes or jewelry that they're wearing. Finger tapping can be associated as well. Pacing, wandering, and exit seeking. Repeating words or behaviors may also be cues to engage in an activity. And keep in mind that all of these things look different for each loved one. Finger tapping may not always mean that they're ready to engage. Maybe they're bored, maybe they're hungry. It's important to assess your loved one, their needs, their interests, and modify it to their liking. As Christina spoke about, we do have some upcoming events that may help you with engagement. Graceful gatherings, as she said, is one of our biggest services that we offer. Here we have listed all of the learning topics for the caregivers. Again, the client or your loved one will be in a different room with trained staff, a secured room, and they will have an activity every 30 minutes. We love to start with bingo because who doesn't like bingo? We have more information on our upcoming events at the exhibitors table in the hall as well. Friday, August 26th is home safety. That one's coming up pretty soon. The difference between the event for Friday, September 9th is we're going to be bringing the client and caregiver together for this one. So we'll be offering health screenings by WellMed, mobile mammograms by University Health Systems, and then we'll finish it off with a group activity with client and caregiver, more than likely bingo. Here we have listed more items where Grace Place can help you. Now, Grace at Home is one of our biggest services. We offer a therapeutic activity, free for now, to client and caregiver. As Christina stated, it comes with a caregiver guide, sort of some tips and tricks on how to engage your loved one with the provided activity. We have Grace at Home welcome kits and samples. The welcome kits in the exhibitor hall are for if you're prepared to sign up for services today. We'll start you today and you'll receive your next therapeutic activity next month. We also have a second Saturday support group partnering with Alzheimer's Association. Second Saturday of every month, of course not today, but next month we will still have a second Saturday support group. These are just little things that we have to offer you guys, but they will make a large impact for your loved one. The importance of today is the important takeaway of today is to just engage them. It could be an activity, it could be a conversation, it could be over a meal, it could be anything, as long as they're present with you. That's what matters to us. And here we will open it up for any questions that you all may have as far as activities, engaging, anything you guys would like to ask.
Elisa, where can we purchase the activity guides, like the blue and green one that were in your slides?
Yeah, those are actually in our sample kits. We have some in the exhibitors hall. If you're interested, just visit our table. Sample kits are completely free. Welcome kits are free. So if you're prepared to sign up, I say go for the welcome kit.
A question right here.
Question is, in activity, what do you do in reference to the person who is pushing away from the activity? And consistently pushing away?
Is it a certain activity?
Well, you mentioned one of them, bingo.
I would say if they're no longer interested in the bingo or not engaging in a certain activity, I would say try others. And it could be something you wouldn't even think of. It could be like the $2 painting canvases from Dollar Tree. It could be dominoes. It could be genuinely anything. For the later stage, we try more comforting items like hand massages and things like that.
The second question is, when do you feel you're going to be open?
Turn that over to Christina.
Thanks, Alicia. So our plan, as you know, we had no intention of closing temporarily, or that is to say, we knew we were going to close. I thought it was going to be 2 weeks to 30 days. At the same time that was happening, Meals on Wheels was already planning to we were fundraising and planning to break ground on a brand new campus. So our new center, our whole Meals on Wheels campus, including Grace Place, I'll give you the address, will be located at 2718 Danbury Court. It's off of Nacogdoches and 410, just north of that intersection, and it is being finalized in construction now. We anticipate a substantial completion date of construction in October, fingers crossed. So once that happens, our team, who is all we all house together in a couple of different buildings on the northwest side of town, we'll start the process of moving over to that new campus. That will hopefully be in November, and then so between November and December, we'll be getting moved in and getting everything ready. One of the things to keep in mind about Grace Place as it was when we were opened, we were a registered, licensed adult day center through the state of Texas. So that is our goal. We want to be a licensed adult day center again. I just think that that's the way to go. It holds us to that high standard of care as well. That, however, comes with patience, a process, a little bit of red tape. So what we're hoping for is opening after the start of the new year, and it'll be kind of a gradual process as well. For those of you that are interested in keeping up with when we're going to reopen or want to express interest, I would definitely recommend stopping by the table in the vendor room. There's a sign-up list. You can put your name and your email on there. If you want to make a note that you're interested in Grace Place when we're going to be open, you can write that on as well. You can call us on Monday and tell us about your interest. And then, you know, as I said, we're just hopeful that after the start of the year, we'll be able to reopen. In the meantime, we will be also working to get communication out to let you guys know about the updates along the way too.
We have an online question.
A comment from Gail that says, "It's wonderful that you separated by stage. This approach needs to be used more." Just a good comment.
Yes. Do y'all provide transportation to your center?
Great question. So when we were previously open and before, we did not provide our own transportation. However, our activity directors, we actually have our activity director in the room with us here today, who's going to be the new activity director for Grace Place. Maria, do you want to stand up real quick so they can say hi? Our activity directors are, very experienced with helping families to navigate the transportation options that are available to you. But that is something, again, that we will help you with. So most of our families drop off their loved ones or they use Viatrans, and then we help them to get connected with Viatrans and get all of that lined up. That'll also save you some time and logistics in terms of getting your loved one there as well too.
We have one over here.
Not being familiar, can you tell me what Grace at Home focuses on or what their goals are?
That's a great question. So the intent behind Grace at Home was to give the families a little bit of a snapshot of something that you might not normally think of is this would be an activity that my loved one might like to engage in. So something to provide an opportunity for the person living with dementia and your family with an activity that's thought of specifically with them, but it is also something for the caregiver. So those caregiver guides that we talk about, we're not going to be sending you a book. We're not going to be sending you a 20-page guide. It's going to be a card, and it's going to talk to you about the intent behind the activity that we send to you, the purpose, what it's helpful for. Some of them might help with like fine motor skills. Some of them might be social engagement, etc. And then also ways to encourage engagement. So it's almost like a little snapshot of what a Grace Place would be like. We also know that you have professional caregivers often coming into your homes as well, and grandchildren, and neighbors, and people who want to help, but might have very little to no experience in interacting with somebody with dementia. So if you give them these activities, a lot of our families tell us that they have all the activities together in one spot. Somebody mentioned that they had to get like a piece of furniture just to put all those activities. Well, it's great when you have a visitor because they can read through some of the guides, find something that they connect with, and instantly get to work hands-on activity with your loved one.
Good. We have another question right here.
Hi, I had a question regarding the flyer. I was wondering if that's available online as well for interaction that way.
Yes, and we actually have Amy. Is Amy still out here?
She'll be here. They're singing at lunch.
Yes. So Grace Notes Choir is going to be singing at lunch. They were doing it virtually, online only. They have now transitioned to, I believe it's hybrid, so it's meeting in person and hybrid. So that still gives you an option, especially if you're nervous about coming out. Again, we want to encourage you to stay connected with those things. If you and your loved one come to a Grace Notes Choir online opportunity, it may just be as simple as you see your loved, or you hear your loved one's not singing, but they're sitting there next to you, and you feel them start to tap your leg. They're participating, they're engaging in that activity. It might be different from singing and vocalizing, or they're clapping their hands, and that's still perfectly okay. That's something that gives them an opportunity to connect with music too.
Is there a fee for the services or like the centers and the Meals on Wheels?
Great question. So the services that we're offering currently, so the Grace at Home, the Graceful Gatherings, Graceful Adventures, Grace Notes Choir, there is not currently a fee to families and members of the community. They're open to all of you. So anybody who wants to get involved in them, you're all welcome. There's not currently a fee for those. There will be for Grace Place when we reopen, and we are working on pricing for that now. The other thought that came to mind as I was thinking about Grace Notes Choir, the Graceful Gatherings, we're also working to incorporate more virtual programming. So say you lived here and you are providing care for mom, and your brothers and sisters live in another state. This can be a great way to get them involved with mom's care. They can log into our virtual programming. They can come to the support group the second Saturday of the month. They can call us and get guidance and advice for certain situations, but they can actively participate, especially in some of these virtual opportunities as well.
We have a couple online.
From the online audience, first question we have, can we sign up for Grace at Home online, or do we call Grace Place? Also, are there some of these services provided for the Spanish-speaking population?
As far as Grace at Home goes, we do have services for Spanish-speaking communities. We can, if you want to come to like a Graceful Gathering, you are more than welcome, and we will do our best to provide a translator. We do have a couple of people on staff, of course, that are bilingual and able to translate for them.
And then can you sign up for it online?
Yes, sorry. You can sign up on Grace at Home. We ask that you call for 210-735-5115. My extension is 1061. You can call me directly if you would like to sign up. There is a form that we have not added online just yet, but it's a form that we would have to fill out over the phone. It'll take about 10 to 15 minutes, and then you'll be good to go at Grace at Home. Also, we don't require you to be in the city of San Antonio or even the state of Texas for Grace at Home. We ship to people that are on the East Coast or West Coast. The state doesn't matter. Us serving you guys does.
Two more questions from the online audience. One, will there be more information on Alzheimer's website regarding Grace at Home Second Saturday program, as I want to send out my clients, patients, and family?
Yes, we normally get a flyer from the Alzheimer's Association with upcoming information for our Second Saturday Report group. It can also be found on the Alzheimer's Association website if you're searching by zip code or state.
Okay, the last one. Is there a plan in the future to open a second Grace Place?
So, and just to clarify, if that previous question was in regards to, it sounded like it might be a professional working in the field, letting them, getting information for their clients. Can't encourage you enough, and just make it really, really simple. Meals on Wheels San Antonio website is mowsatx.org. Our phone number, 210-735-5115. So we are, again, we're separate from the Alzheimer's Association. We're our own agency. There might have been a little confusion there. If you forget everything else about who to call and what to do next, remember that Meals on Wheels San Antonio, if you call us and you start asking questions about Alzheimer's and dementia care and what was the name of that program, they're going to connect you with Alasia, Donna, Maria, or myself, and we will get you squared away. We want to help you guys help those that you're serving. So if you're here and you work in the field and you want to connect people to us, we want to help you. Just give us a call, and we can even have a meeting with you and tell you about all the services that we have. The last question was, is there a plan to open up the second Grace Place? If it's up to me, we'll have a Grace Place in every corner in this city. So, yes, there's definitely, we want Grace Place, the first Grace, to be open, and we want it to be filled as quickly as possible. And we know that the need is out there. We continue to hear the struggles that you guys as families are having. The worst news that I hear from families is when they come to us and they tell us, oh, Grace Place, yeah, I heard about you. You know, my mother had Alzheimer's and dementia. I wish we knew about you when we were going through this with them. So the more you guys can help us get the word out, don't worry about whether they're going to qualify, when we're going to open, all those questions, we will take it from there. The biggest thing that we need your help with is just getting the word out that we are going to be opening so that we can help. And then again, the more that we hear about need in the community, so as we're starting to take our services kind of on the road, we want to do these graceful gatherings, possibly some mobile respite where we do it at churches or places in the community willing to work with us. Part of that is to assess the need in the community. So say we find a connection on the South Central, and we've got like 15 people coming that are really interested in our events. So it'll help us to know more of where those populations are of people being served. So yes, we definitely want a Grace Space 2, 3, 4, 5, as many as we can have.
One more over here.
So I'm going to piggyback on what you said. So I find a lot of my information, like I found out about this through social media. Does Grace Place have, they don't have a Facebook page? Or...
Everything's under the Meals on Wheels San Antonio page. So I know it can get a little confusing. We're also working on our websites, our Meals on Wheels website, to make it a little more user-friendly so that when you come to Meals on Wheels, I mean, you may or may not remember the name Grace Place. You might come to Meals on Wheels and think Alzheimer's services, and that's the extent of it. We're working on that as well. But we do have our own, we have our website, and then we can, all of our information can also be found on all of Meals on Wheels social medias, Facebook and beyond.
One more over here.
Hi, a couple of questions. One is, how do you get funding, and if you have the, I guess, donations to Meals on Wheels would go also to Grace Place?
So, great question, thank you for asking that. So, we rely heavily on a variety of sources. So, private donations are probably the most important that we receive. We also get some sort of corporate donations. For Grace Place services now, for a lot of the things that we have been able to provide during closure, yes, it's coming out of the donations that we receive through Meals on Wheels, but also as part of a grant for United Way, and which we're really, really grateful for, because without that, some of the services that we're offering right now, we might not be able to offer for free. Personal private donations, individual donations are always accepted and super appreciated. In fact, our Director of Individual Giving, Adriana Irby, happens to be with us today. She's actually in the respite room. So the check-in station outside of the respite room, you can talk to the folks there. Again, the services that we're providing, like the Grace at Home, I want to say, off the top of my head, if I had to give a value to what those are on average a month, somewhere in the ballpark right now, give or take, of maybe $50. And so we're doing that for free. So yes, we welcome donations always, open arms. The more we have in terms of resources, the more of our friends and your neighbors that we're able to serve and able to help.
And then when you mentioned the mobile Grace Place, and you visit, say, churches or other sites, what are some of those examples? Would you be able to say visit a memory care facility that's assisted living?
So that is a service concept right now. It's something that we have not started just yet, but we're looking forward to seeing if we have partners in the community where we could go into other, and I don't even want to say like a memory care facility specifically or a church specifically. Those are ideas of places that we are thinking might be good partnerships for us. We know that there are a lot of places out there where there are already communities with people living with Alzheimer's and dementia. One of the things that I hear from a lot of families is even if their loved one is living in a long-term care or memory care facility, they're not necessarily engaging with them, with their loved one on a regular basis. these places are also spread so thin right now with care and with the professionals who are working so hard. We want to come in and help. We want to come in, if we, part of our growth program is to develop training so that we can come in to memory care facilities and help train your CNAs and give them trainings on how to positively engage in activities. You know, what can you do when you're burnt out? You know, what are other ideas that you can think of to change your approach to working with the people that you serve in your community? With the mobile Grace Place concept is that we will find places in the community who are friendly partnerships who would let us come in and offer respite, true respite, where you're able to bring your loved one and get away maybe for a few hours and then come back and pick them up and just take that little break. So if you know of places that might be willing to talk with us about that, I would say be thinking about the environment of the place as well. Is it easy to pull up and drop off a loved one? Is it a really, really far walk? What is the, what does the community seem like? Do they seem like they would be friendly for those of us coming in with people with dementia? But you can't give us too many questions or too many suggestions. A lot of the things that we're offering now came as a result of questions and suggestions either from staff or from the community, and we're always listening and we're always trying to find out how we can serve better. Anybody have any other questions?
Sorry, you're having a powwow over here.
That's okay.
So thank you all so much. Thank you guys for all of you do, but thank you for telling us about it. So thank you again. Okay, well, with that, we get to break for lunch. Isn't that awesome? Yes? Don't get up yet. Dismissed you. Goodness. So I do want to say, first of all, we want to thank certainly everyone that's here in the Alzheimer's Association. Lunch is going to be presented as out where you picked up breakfast in the community partners room on the long table. It was not donated, so the Alzheimer's Association has picked up the fee for that. So thank them. You can certainly appreciate it. It's from Anne Marie's. There are turkey, ham, tarragon chicken, a grilled chicken salad, and then there's a veggie wrap that is a true vegetarian. So if you all could leave, make sure that our vegetarian friends get those true veggie wraps, because everything else has some other form of meat or protein on it. And then I do want to say, after lunch we have actor Tony Avena coming in from Leslie Betty, from My Favorite Three Amigos. Okay, so make sure you come back, both online and in the room. So we'll see you guys back here. I think we're eating lunch in the room, right? You can, bring your lunch back in the room. You can eat it as you walk around our community partners room. But we'll see everyone back in 1 hour. Thanks.